The night glittered with chandeliers, diamonds, and the kind of people who smiled with their mouths but judged with their eyes. Inside the governor's mansion, every guest floated through the room like they owned it. Laughter rose, glasses clinked, and conversations dripped with privilege. And right in the middle of all that shine stood Alani ***, a 17-year-old black girl in a soft blue dress she'd bought with savings from her tutoring job. She didn't glow like the chandeliers, she glowed in a quieter, deeper way. A confidence that didn't need attention, a calm that didn't match her surroundings. But the room noticed her. Oh, they noticed her. Whispers trailed behind her like shadows. Who is she? Whose guest is that? What is she doing here? Alani didn't flinch. She kept moving with steady, deliberate steps, carrying a small envelope in her hand. She wasn't here for photos or champagne. She wasn't here to impress anyone. She had come with a purpose, a message she needed to give directly to the governor, a message she had waited months to deliver. But the room didn't see a girl with purpose. It saw someone who didn't belong. That became painfully clear the moment Officer Trent Hawkins *** spotted her. He entered the ballroom carrying the weight of his badge like a weapon. Tall, broad, decorated in medals he didn't deserve, Trent scanned the room with smug authority until his eyes locked on Alani. The change was immediate. His posture stiffened. His pride inflated. His stride sharpened. He walked straight toward her, cutting through guests like she was a threat that needed eliminating. Alani felt him before she saw him, that cold presence, that familiar tension she had learned to recognize too many times. He stepped into her path. "You lost, sweetheart." His voice dripped with mock concern. Alani met his eyes, steady and respectful. "No, I'm exactly where I need to be." That answer made his smile curl, darken, twist. Because men like Trent hated confidence in a girl like her. And what he did next would stop the entire party. But what he didn't know * would change everything. Alani Marshall had learned, long before this night, how to walk into rooms where people thought she didn't belong. She didn't announce herself. She didn't raise her voice. She simply carried herself with a quiet dignity that made insecure people uncomfortable. Tonight, she needed every ounce of that strength. Because she wasn't just here as a guest, she was here as a daughter. A daughter who rarely had a chance to speak to her father without an assistant, a camera, or a politician standing between them. Governor Elijah Marshall, the man thousands admired, hundreds feared, and millions voted for, was a complicated mixture of brilliance and distance. The world praised him as a champion of justice, a rising national figure, a man of the people. But to Alani, he was something far simpler and far harder. A father she barely saw. A father she loved but didn't fully understand. A father who protected everyone except the girl he had sworn to raise. She had been adopted at age 8. She still remembered the moment she stepped into his home, a home so big it felt like an entire world. She remembered clinging to her small suitcase, feeling like she had stepped into a life she hadn't earned. Elijah had held her hand gently back then, promised her she'd never feel alone again. But promises made in warm moments often evaporate under cold responsibilities. As the years passed, politics swallowed him whole. Debates, meetings, speeches, campaigns. One event after another. One crisis replacing the next. He loved Alani deeply but from far away, like a star you can admire but never touch. And Alani learned how to survive without the warmth she once imagined having. She grew into a reserved, brilliant, compassionate young woman with dreams shaped by her own struggles. She volunteered in low-income neighborhoods, tutored children whose stories resembled her own, and spoke more boldly for justice than most adults she met. Her heart was gentle. Her spine was steel. But even steel bends under too much pressure. Tonight, she finally wanted to speak to her father about something she had been preparing for months. A youth program she helped design, one that could genuinely change lives in the communities ignored by the wealthy guests in this room. She had typed the proposal, printed it on clean paper, placed it in a simple envelope, and hoped that maybe, just maybe, she could hand it to him without being dismissed. She didn't want fame. She didn't want politics. She just wanted to be heard. And maybe, for once, seen. But the mansion she walked into wasn't built for girls like her. Not in the eyes of the guests. Not in the eyes of the staff. Not in the eyes of certain men wearing badges. People looked at her with a mixture of curiosity and discomfort. They whispered as if she were an unexpected stain on a flawless white tablecloth. Alani ignored the voices. She moved through the grand halls, rehearsing what she would say. "Dad, I know you're busy, but this matters. I've met kids who feel forgotten. I think we can help them. I just need you to read this." She imagined his smile, imagined him placing a warm hand on her shoulder, imagined him saying, "I'm proud of you." She let herself imagine it because hope was the only thing that ever gave her courage. But hope alone couldn't protect her from Officer Trent Hawkins. Trent wasn't just a cop. He was the type of cop who believed authority was a costume, not a responsibility. Behind his badges and medals lived a man fueled by insecurity and superiority. Someone who smiled during public ceremonies but sneered when faced with people he believed didn't fit. He had worked security for high-profile events before, and tonight was no different. He strutted through the mansion like he was guarding treasure, though in truth, he was guarding ego. When he first noticed Alani from across the room, he saw something that irritated him instantly. A black girl who looked too calm, too composed, too unafraid. To men like Trent, confidence in a girl like Alani felt like disobedience. And disobedience needed correcting. He didn't know her name, didn't know her purpose, didn't know her family. But people like Trent didn't need knowledge, they only needed a target. Alani felt the energy in the room shifting as he approached, but she didn't break stride. She refused to let fear rewrite her purpose. Not tonight, she had come too far. Near the back of the ballroom, she spotted her father's campaign manager, a woman who always seemed rushed, always checking messages, always speaking in clipped sentences. Alani took a breath and moved toward her, hoping for a quick introduction. But Trent reached her first. He planted himself right in front of her, blocking her path with the confidence of someone who believed there would be no consequences. Alani stepped back gently, polite but firm. "Excuse me, I'm trying to find." "You trying to find trouble?" His voice was low, sharp, dismissive. His eyes scanned her dress, her hair, her skin, like he was inspecting a piece of contraband. Alani swallowed, not in fear, just disappointment. Another night, another room. Another man trying to strip away her dignity. "I'm supposed to be here," she said quietly. He tilted his head, amused. "Oh, really? And who invited you?" She held the envelope close to her chest and repeated, "I belong here." To Trent, that was a challenge. To Alani, it was a truth she didn't owe him. Guests nearby exchanged glances but said nothing. Some smirked. Some stepped away. Some watched the way people watch a car crash, curious, distant, entertained. Alani lifted her chin. She wasn't backing down. Not after everything she had lived through. Not tonight. But even she didn't know how far Trent would take this. Even she didn't know that her father would walk in at the very worst moment. Even she didn't know that the entire mansion would fall silent. And justice would come crashing down in the most unexpected way. And Officer Trent Hawkins, he had no idea that the girl he was humiliating, the girl he was trying to put in her place, was the governor's daughter. And the moment he learned it would become the moment that ended his career, his pride, and his false power forever. Alani had dealt with officers like Trent Hawkins before, men who spoke with their chests and listened with their egos. But tonight was supposed to be different. Tonight was supposed to be about courage, not confrontation. She took a quiet breath and attempted to step around him. Trent stepped the same way. A deliberate block. A territorial move. A silent message, "You're not going anywhere." He folded his arms, the badge on his chest catching the ballroom's golden light. "Let's try this again," he said, tilting his head with fake patience. "Name." Alani clasped the envelope tighter. Alani Marshall. His eyebrow lifted. The name meant nothing to him. The Marshall he respected had a very different skin tone. "And what are you doing here?" he asked. She kept her voice steady. "I came to speak with Governor Elijah Marshall." That was it. The spark. The thing that pushed Trent's arrogance from a simmer to a boil. He burst out laughing, not loud enough to turn heads but loud enough to wound. You, he scoffed, you came here to speak with the governor. He leaned closer as if sharing a private joke. That's a good one. Alani didn't smile, she didn't react. She simply repeated, yes. His face shifted, the laughter vanished. Now she was annoying him. Trent had built his entire identity around the idea that he could instantly evaluate a person, place them neatly in a category, usually beneath him. But Alani was not fitting into any category he preferred. She wasn't scared. She wasn't shrinking. She wasn't apologizing. People like her in rooms like this usually apologized for taking up space. Alani just stood there. That irritated him in a way he couldn't articulate. He took a step closer. You got an invitation. Alani nodded. I don't need one. You don't need one? His tone sharpened. Everyone in this room needed one. She gestured toward the guests politely. Not everyone. That did it. Trent's jaw tightened. He wasn't used to being challenged by anyone, let alone a teenage girl he had already labeled in his mind. All right, he said, straightening himself like a judge. Show me ID. Alani blinked slowly. Why? Because I told you to, he replied. And who exactly asked you to come inspect me? She countered gently. People nearby started turning slightly, sensing tension. Nobody stepped closer, but the curiosity grew thicker. Trent leaned in, lowering his voice. Listen, I can make this easy or I can make it difficult. Don't push me. Alani met his stare calmly. I didn't push you, you walked to me. That line cut through him like a blade dipped in truth. His nostrils flared. He took another step toward her, invading her space fully now. Do you have something to hide? He asked. My father's speech, Alani replied softly. He scoffed again. Your father, right. He made a show of looking her up and down. Who's your father? Alani didn't answer. She didn't owe him that. Her silence should have been enough to end the conversation. But men like Trent never stop when silence enters a room. They mistake it for weakness. He reached forward and grabbed the envelope from her hand. Hey, Alani said, taking a step back. Trent flipped it over in his palm, as if the paper itself were suspicious. No name on it, no seal, no official stamp. He waved it mockingly. You expect me to believe you belong here with this? Alani's chest tightened, not from fear but from frustration. That's personal, she said, reaching for it. Trent pulled it out of reach. Everything is personal with people like you, he muttered. Her eyes hardened. Give it back. That was when he grabbed her wrist. He didn't yank. He didn't twist. He simply grabbed. But the intent behind it, controlling, dismissive, possessive, made her whole body stiffen. You don't get to tell me what to do, Trent said, his grip tightening. Understand. Alani tried to keep her voice level. You're hurting me. I barely touched you. I said you're hurting me. He leaned closer, his breath close enough to feel. Yeah, what are you gonna do about it? Those words hit her harder than his grip. She'd heard them before, from teachers who doubted her, officers who dismissed her, kids who mocked her for being the governor's charity case. But tonight she wouldn't let those words define her. She straightened her shoulders. I told you, I'm supposed to be here. And I'm telling you, Trent snapped, you're not. He let go of her wrist only to step in front of her again, blocking her completely. If you don't leave, I'll escort you out myself. The room's energy shifted. It was subtle, like a gust that passes through leaves without moving the branches. People sensed something was happening. Some watched from corners of their eyes. Some whispered behind raised glasses. Some smirked, secretly enjoying the display of power. Alani's heart pounded, not from fear, but from the heartbreak of yet another moment where she was treated like an outsider in a life she fought so hard to build. She swallowed quietly. Please, she said, I just need to speak to my father, that's all. Trent tilted his head, like a predator examining prey. You keep saying that, my father. You think dropping a fake name is gonna impress me, huh? Her voice cracked just slightly. It's not fake. He rolled his eyes dramatically. Fine, what's your father's name? Alani hesitated, not out of shame, but because she knew exactly what would follow. The disbelief. The ridicule. The accusations. But she said it anyway. Elijah Marshall. Trent blinked, then laughed harder, then laughed loud enough to draw attention. Governor Marshall, he repeated, wiping a fake tear. You, please, that man's daughter is at an Ivy League somewhere, not wandering around a ballroom in a thrift store dress. Alani felt her stomach fall. Her dress wasn't thrifted. She had spent every dollar she earned on it. But Trent's words were meant to wound, meant to make her feel lower, smaller, unworthy. She closed her eyes briefly, steadying her breath. Trent took her silence as confirmation. No more games, he said, grabbing her elbow this time. We're going now. Alani pulled back gently. Don't touch me. But Trent didn't let go. He tightened his grip and began dragging her toward the exit, whispering harshly. You're done. You don't belong here. You never did. Alani's panic rose, not because of Trent, but because this moment was slipping away. The envelope. Her father. Her message. Everything she had prepared for. Her voice trembled with urgency. Stop, please, you're making a mistake. Oh, I'm making a mistake, he said mockingly. You think you can tell me what a mistake is? She tried to pull her arm free again. Let me go, I'm not resisting. Exactly what someone guilty would say, he muttered. The guests around them exchanged awkward glances, pretending not to watch while watching intensely. Their silence was loud. Their apathy was suffocating. Trent continued dragging her toward the grand side hallway, where fewer eyes would see the humiliation he planned to escalate. But before he could take another step, a small, trembling voice behind them whispered, Should we stop him? A waiter's, barely older than Alani, holding a tray of untouched champagne. The boy's voice wasn't strong, but it was enough to freeze her for a second. Enough to remind her. Someone finally noticed. Someone cared enough to speak. Trent turned with a sneer. You got something to say, kid. The waiter swallowed nervously and lowered his voice. Sir, she wasn't bothering anyone. Maybe we should. Trent stepped toward him. Mind your business. His voice was sharp enough to make the boy tremble. But the moment of hesitation gave Alani just enough time to step back. And just enough time for another voice, older, sharper, colder, to slice through the air behind them. Where is Governor Marshall? Someone get him now. The room shifted again. Something was coming. Something unstoppable. Something that would flip the power in this room upside down. And Trent, still gripping Alani's arm, had no idea he was seconds away from destroying his entire career. Alani didn't move. Not when Trent squared his shoulders like he expected her to shrink. Not when guests began drifting back toward the scene, drawn like moths to conflict. Not even when the music stopped completely, leaving her breath and his anger as the only sounds left in the room. She held the envelope against her chest, hands steady. Her face didn't tremble. But Trent's did. Control. He needed control. It pulsed through him like a hunger. And the girl in front of him, the girl who should have wilted, wasn't giving it to him. Put the envelope down, he repeated, slower this time. Now. The crowd leaned in. He liked that. Authority worked best with an audience. But Alani wasn't playing his script. She kept her voice low. I already told you, I'm here to deliver this to the governor, that's all. Her tone wasn't disrespectful. That almost made it worse. A disrespectful tone would have justified rage. A fearful one would have fed his ego. This calmness, it unsettled him. Trent stepped closer, so close the brim of his uniform cap nearly touched her forehead. People like you don't just deliver something to the governor, he hissed. You don't get to wander around in here like you belong. Her eyes flicked up. Why? He blinked. What? Why don't I belong? She didn't raise her voice, but the question sliced through the room. Some guests shifted. Some looked away. Some pretended they hadn't heard. Trent felt the heat in his neck. Don't get cute. It's a question, she said, a simple one. He didn't answer, because the answer wasn't something he could say out loud with witnesses. Instead, he jabbed a finger toward the exit. You're coming with me. We're going to verify who you are. Alani knew what that meant. She'd seen it before. A room where cameras conveniently malfunctioned. A protocol check that felt more like punishment. A simple search that somehow always crossed boundaries. She inhaled once, grounding herself. I'm not going anywhere with you. The room gasped again, quieter this time but heavier. Trent's jaw tensed so hard a vein rose along his temple. He reached for her wrist. And that was the moment everything shattered. Because the instant his hand lifted, a deep voice echoed sharply across the marble. Officer Hawkins stepped back. The entire room turned. The governor had finally arrived. Governor Elias Ward did not walk, he stormed. His presence carried the weight of 1,000 decisions, 1,000 controversies, 1,000 moments where he had been forced to stand taller than life allowed. His eyes, sharp and steel gray, went straight to the girl in the blue dress. Then to the officer standing too close to her. Trent immediately straightened. Sir, I didn't ask you to speak. Ward's voice cracked through the ballroom like a whip. Trent froze, caught between obedience and ego. Alani didn't move, didn't speak, but the governor's gaze returned to her and softened almost imperceptibly. Are you hurt? He asked. No, she said quietly, not yet. That yet punched through the air. Governor Ward turned his head slightly, just enough for everyone to feel the temperature shift. He addressed Trent again, slower this time. What exactly were you planning to do with her? Trent swallowed. Governor, sir, she doesn't have proper credentials. She refused to comply. I was following protocol. Protocol doesn't require grabbing a child. Ward stepped closer, and certainly not my child asterisk. The entire room inhaled as one. Alani's eyes widened. Trent's face drained of color. Someone dropped a champagne glass, but no one turned toward the sound. All eyes were on the governor, who was now standing directly between Alani and the officer, their difference in stature almost symbolic. Trent's mouth hung open. Yes, sir, she's your. Yes, Ward said, she is my daughter. A ripple of disbelief washed through the guests. Whispers exploded like sparks. Trent blinked rapidly, his hands shook. I didn't know. No, Ward said flatly, you didn't bother to know. A silence heavier than shame fell over the room. But the governor wasn't done. Tell me, Officer Hawkins, what made you think she didn't belong? Trent opened his mouth, nothing came out. The governor stepped even closer, towering over him. Was it her age? Trent stuttered, no. Her dress? No, sir. Her skin. The last word landed like a drop of acid. Trent flinched as if struck. Guests held their breath. Alani felt her heartbeat in her throat. No, Governor, I swear I wasn't. I didn't think. I was only trying to protect. Protect who? Ward demanded. From what? Trent had no answer. His chest rose and fell too quickly. Sweat gathered at his hairline. The governor looked disgusted. You laid hands on my daughter, he said softly. And you did it with confidence. That means you've done this before, many times, to many people. That's not true. Ward cut him off. Is that why your incident reports disappear faster than they're filed? The crowd gasped again, this time at information they weren't supposed to know. Trent's legs nearly buckled. Governor, please, if you'll just let me explain. You handled my daughter like she was a suspect, Ward said, and you did it with an audience. God knows what you would have done without one. Trent's jaw trembled. He looked like a man trying to hold his world together with shaking fingers. Then something happened. Something small. Something humiliating. Something no one could unsee. A warm trickle slid down Trent's pant leg. Someone near the back whispered, "Oh my God." Trent looked down. The room saw it. Governor Ward saw it. Alani saw it. A dark stain spreading downward. A puddle forming. Officer Trent Hawkins, the man who had stepped forward with all the confidence in the world, with arrogance, with a badge he thought made him untouchable, was now standing in front of the governor. Wetting himself. The shock broke him. His breathing hitched, his face crumpling in panic, humiliation, disbelief. No one spoke. No one even moved. And then, Governor Ward leaned in slowly, voice deep and cutting. "This," he whispered, "is what real fear feels like." Trent's legs finally gave out. He stumbled back, knees hitting the marble. His whole body trembled. His career finished. His reputation collapsed. His audience witnesses to his downfall. And in the center of it all stood Alani, still calm, still holding the envelope, watching the man who tried to shame her drown in his own. But the night wasn't over. Humiliation was only the beginning. Because the envelope she carried, the message inside, that would reveal a truth no one in that ballroom was prepared to hear. And that truth would turn devastation into war. For several long seconds, no one dared breathe. Officer Trent Hawkins knelt on the marble floor, uniform soaked, dignity shattered, gasping like the room itself was suffocating him. The stain on his pants spread in a slow, humiliating stream. He looked small now, like the walls were shrinking around him. But the governor didn't look at him anymore. His attention belonged solely to Alani. "Come with me," Governor Ward said gently, his tone a stark contrast to the thunder he'd unleashed moments before. Alani hesitated, not out of fear, but out of uncertainty. Her fingers tightened around the envelope, the very thing she had come here for, the very thing that had pushed Trent toward her in the first place. "I need to give you this," she said. Ward nodded once. "I know, and we will talk about it, but not here." The guests parted as father and daughter walked through the ballroom, him with authority, her with quiet resilience. Every pair of eyes followed them. Some stared with sympathy, others with morbid fascination, and a few with fear. Fear of what this meant. Fear of what the governor would do. Fear of the storm that had begun inside the mansion. Behind them, Officer Hawkins remained frozen on the floor, security rushing toward him in confusion. But the governor didn't look back. Once they were out of the ballroom, Ward guided Alani into a private hallway lit by soft sconces. The chaos of the party faded behind thick wooden doors. Only then did he exhale. "Alani," he said, and the name trembled in his voice. "Look at me." She did, and for the first time that night, the governor wasn't framed as a powerful figure or a public official. Just a man, a father, whose daughter had nearly been mistreated in front of an entire room. "I should have been with you," he whispered. "I should have come sooner." She shook her head. "You didn't know." "That doesn't matter. You were alone in a room full of people who saw you as a stranger." Alani looked down. "I'm used to that." Ward shut his eyes, pained. "You shouldn't be." A silence settled between them, heavy, raw. Then Alani held out the envelope. "This is why I came," she said quietly. The governor took it but didn't open it immediately. He studied the paper, the careful handwriting of her name on the front. "Is this about her?" he asked. Alani nodded. And suddenly Ward looked older, as if one word, asterisk her asterisk, carried years of grief. "My mother," Alani began. Ward raised a hand gently. "Let's sit first." He led her into a smaller study. Bookshelves lined the walls, maps framed in gold, and an oak desk dominated the center. A large portrait hung above it, a woman with deep eyes, soft curls, and a smile Alani had spent her entire childhood memorizing. Her mother. She looked up at the painting the way a child looks at an old lullaby. Ward noticed, his voice softened. "She'd be proud of you, you know." Alani didn't look away from the portrait. "That's what I came to talk about." Ward motioned for her to sit. She did. He remained standing until he felt steady enough to face whatever was inside the envelope. When he finally opened it, the study fell cold. Inside were photographs, documents, hospital reports, a flash drive. His jaw tightened as he shuffled through each item, some familiar, some painfully new. A police report from 11 years ago. A medical file with his wife's name scribbled across the top. A list of officers on duty the night she died. And a blurred security photo of a man wearing a badge. A man whose face resembled. Ward froze. His hand shook. "This can't be," he whispered. But Alani didn't stop him. She waited as he turned the next page, and the next, until the truth was no longer avoidable. "Trent Hawkins," she said softly. "He wasn't just any officer who stopped me tonight." Ward felt his throat close. "He was there," Alani continued. "The night she died, he wasn't supposed to be. His name was removed from the report later, but I found the original." Ward sank into his chair, eyes wide, lips parted in disbelief. His mind raced, stitching pieces of memory he had never questioned, but now couldn't ignore. "Alani, why didn't you come to me earlier?" His voice cracked. "Why carry this alone?" She swallowed hard, "Because I wasn't sure you'd believe me." Ward looked gutted. "I'm your father. And you're the governor," she said. "People hide things from you, people manipulate what you see, people protect themselves." Ward looked at the documents again, slowly, like they were an autopsy of the past he never wanted to open. "You found all this on your own?" "No," Alani hesitated. "Someone helped me." Ward looked up sharply. "Who?" "A woman named Tamra. She used to work internal affairs until she started asking questions. She gave me everything she had." Ward ran a hand through his hair. "This is dangerous, Alani." "I know. And you still came." "I had to." "Why?" he asked. Her eyes glistened, not with fear but with something heavier, something sharper. "Because Mom didn't die in an accident," Alani said quietly. "Someone caused it, someone covered it, and Hawkins." Her voice hardened. "Hawkins knows exactly what happened." The governor shoved back from his chair, pacing the room like he was trying to outrun the truth. "This is a scandal," he murmured. "This is a crime. This could ruin careers. This could destroy. This could give Mom justice." Alani cut him off. Ward stopped mid-step. The room went silent. Not just quiet, silent, like the study itself held its breath. "Justice," he repeated. "Yes." The governor approached her again, slower this time. He knelt in front of her chair. His voice came low, almost trembling. "I will fight for that," he whispered. "With everything I have. But Alani, what you brought me tonight, this isn't just evidence, it's a threat. Whoever helped cover this up won't go down quietly." "I'm not afraid," she said. Ward looked at her, the certainty in her eyes, the strength she carried, the legacy of a woman they both lost. "You should be," he said. Alani didn't blink. "I'm tired of being afraid." Ward exhaled shakily. "I'll protect you." But Alani shook her head. "You can't protect me from what already started." The governor narrowed his eyes. "What do you mean?" Alani hesitated, then opened her purse. She pulled out a small phone. Ward frowned. "Whose is that?" "It's not mine," she said. "It's Tamra S." Ward's pulse kicked. "Where is she?" Alani looked down. "She's missing." The word hit Ward like a gunshot. "Missing," he repeated. Alani nodded. "2 nights ago, she left me a message, a voice note, and then she disappeared." Ward stared at her, dread crawling up his spine. "Play it," he whispered. Alani opened the phone. Her thumb hovered over the audio file. "She told me not to involve you," Alani said. "She said it wasn't safe. She said if they find out what I know." She swallowed. "They'll come for me too." Ward closed his eyes, a father's fear swallowing his breath. "Alani," he said gently, "play the message." She pressed the button. A woman's trembling voice filled the study. And the first line shattered the room. "Asterisk Alani, if you're hearing this, run." The final syllable of the voice note hung in the room like falling dust. Slow, devastating, impossible to ignore. Alani's thumb remained frozen over the screen. Governor Ward stood utterly still across from her. The study, normally warm, full of family photos and quiet memories, felt suddenly colder, like the walls themselves had absorbed the fear in Tamra's voice. After several seconds, Alani inhaled shakily. "There's more." Ward pulled out a chair and sat down heavily, bracing his elbows against his knees. He looked like a man balancing on a razor's edge. "Play it," he said. Alani pressed the file again, and Tamra's voice continued, breathy, shaking, barely rising above a whisper. Asterisk Alani, they know I talked. I don't know how they found out, but they did. I'm hiding right now. I don't think I'll make it out. The governor's hands curled into fists. That officer who harassed you today, Hawkins, he's not just part of the cover-up. He's protected by people bigger than him. People who were on the Ward case. People who don't want the truth coming back. Alani stiffened. Ward shut his eyes. You can't trust anyone in uniform. Not right now. Not even the ones who smile. Tell the governor only if he's alone, only if you're sure he's not followed. Tamra's breath hitched, and the sound twisted the governor's chest. Asterisk Alani, I'm sorry. I dragged you into this. But you deserve to know what happened to your mother. Just promise me one thing. Another breath. A beat. A trembling pause. Don't let them near you again. A sudden thud echoed in the background of the voice note, something falling. A scuffle, a muffled curse. Tamra gasped. They found me. The recording cut off. Just like that. Silence settled, thick and merciless. Alani lowered the phone slowly. Her hands trembled, but her jaw stayed firm. She blinked quickly, fighting the sting behind her eyes. Ward stood, not abruptly, but with the heavy, steady rise of a storm. That's enough, he said. But Alani shook her head. No, it's not. Ward came around the desk, kneeling beside her chair, lowering himself to eye level. Alani, Tamra was trying to protect you. This isn't your burden to carry anymore, it's mine. His voice was gentle, but Alani's expression didn't break. I'm not a child, she said softly. And I'm not a secret you can hide. Mom never got justice. We did nothing for 11 years. I can't just hand this to you and pretend I didn't hear what she said. Ward's breath shook. I'm trying to keep you safe. Alani met his eyes with quiet strength. You can't keep me safe from a truth that already knows my name. Her words pierced him. Ward sat back, hands shaking slightly. He wasn't a man used to fear, but tonight he felt it like ice under his skin. After a long, tense moment, he stood. We're leaving, he said. What? Alani frowned. You're going to my private office downtown. It's secured. No one gets in without my clearance. Alani rose from her seat. Dad. No, his voice hardened. There are men here tonight who could be connected to this. Donors, officials, retired officers. If they realize you know more than you should, you're not safe. Alani gripped the envelope tighter. I'm not afraid of them. Ward turned to her sharply. But I am. The force in his voice made her fall silent. It was the first time she'd ever heard him sound scared. Not angry. Not frustrated. Scared. He stepped closer. Alani, this isn't just about a cop humiliating you. This is a network, a cover-up, a group that's protected themselves for over a decade. If Tamra is missing, they're already cleaning up loose ends. And I'm next, Alani whispered. Ward didn't answer. He didn't have to. Back in the ballroom, whispers swirled like smoke. Rumors traveled faster than truth. The governor's sudden exit with a mysterious black girl sent speculation spiraling through the room. And in the corner, hidden by shadows, half-lit by the golden chandelier, Officer Hawkins sat stiffly, trembling hands concealed under the table. His soaked uniform had been replaced with a borrowed jacket, but humiliation still clung to him. His radio buzzed. He answered low, yeah. A distorted voice replied, did she give him anything? Hawkins swallowed. I don't know, she had an envelope, I couldn't get it. Did she talk to him? Yes. A pause. A cold one. Then you need to get her, the voice said, before she talks to anyone else. Hawkins's spine went rigid. I can't, he suspended me, security's watching. The voice on the other end exhaled sharply, irritated. Then find a way. She shouldn't have made it out of that ballroom. Hawkins's breath stuttered. I messed up, okay? I didn't know who she was. And that's why you need to fix it, the voice snapped. Because if the governor opens what she brought, we're dead. Hawkins wiped his forehead with a shaky hand. He stared toward the hallway where Alani had disappeared. I'll handle it, he whispered. You better. The radio clicked off. Hawkins pushed back from the table and stood, forcing himself to steady his legs. The humiliation he'd suffered minutes earlier had twisted into something else. Fear, desperation, and a violent need to silence whatever Alani knew. Meanwhile, in the quiet hallway outside the study, Ward motioned to two trusted staff. "I need the car brought around, and no one follows us." They nodded and hurried away. But Alani tugged gently on her father's sleeve. "We can't go to your office," she said. Ward frowned. "Why not?" "Because Tamra said they're watching you." He stopped. Alani continued, her voice low but steady. "If they know she was helping me, they know I'd bring the evidence to you. They know exactly where you'd take me." Ward inhaled through his nose, tension tightening his shoulders. "Then where," he asked, "do you think we should go?" Alani reached into her dress pocket and pulled out a small, folded note. "I have one last place Tamra told me to go if anything ever went wrong," she said. "A backup, someone who knows more than she did." Ward looked at the paper. "At the edge of the city," Alani whispered. "A mechanic's shop. It looks abandoned, but she said someone there owes Mom a favor." Ward stared at his daughter, the armor in her voice, the bravery in her stance, the legacy of the woman they both lost shining through her eyes. "This is bigger than you know," he said. Alani nodded. "So take me to the place where the truth starts." For a moment, neither moved. Then Ward exhaled sharply. "Fine, but you don't leave my sight, not for a second." She nodded. They began walking toward the side exit, both unaware that Hawkins had already slipped out of the ballroom, following at a distance. A storm was gathering, one that none of them could turn back now. The governor's black SUV cut through the empty streets, the city lights streaking past the windows like falling stars. Alani sat beside her father in the back seat, clutching the envelope against her chest. Her heartbeat pulsed through her fingertips. Ward kept glancing at her every few seconds, as if checking she was still there, still breathing, still safe. The driver, one of Ward's most trusted men, watched the rearview mirror with steady, calculating eyes. But no one saw the second pair of headlights trailing them several cars back. Hawkins. His knuckles whitened around the steering wheel. His jaw clenched until his teeth ached. He didn't want to do this. He didn't want things to go this far, but the voice on the radio was right. If the governor saw what was in that envelope, the whole chain would fall, and Hawkins would fall with it. He pressed harder on the gas. 20 minutes later, Ward's SUV slowed in front of a small mechanic's shop on the outskirts of the city. The building looked abandoned, faded paint, boarded windows, weeds cracking through the pavement. But one small bulb glowed over the side door, faint but alive. Alani sat forward. "That's it." Ward nodded at his driver. "Park and stay alert." They stepped out into the cool night air. The shop smelled faintly of rust and oil. A distant wind rattled a loose metal sheet. Ward stayed close beside Alani, one hand hovering protectively near her back. Alani knocked twice. For a moment, nothing. Then the door creaked open. A tall, older black man with a silver beard and deep-set eyes stood in the doorway. His clothes were worn, hands stained with grease, but his gaze carried a sharpness that hadn't faded with time. He froze when he saw Alani. "You're her girl," he said softly. Alani nodded. "You knew my mother." The man's throat tightened. "Everybody knew your mother." Ward stepped forward. "Sir, we're looking for someone named." "Doesn't matter what you're looking for," the man interrupted. "If she sent you here, come inside." He ushered them into the dim shop, closing the door quickly behind them. Inside, the air was warmer. Tools hung neatly from the walls, and an old radio sat silent on a dusty counter. A single lamp illuminated the workbench. The man turned to Alani. "Name S. Moses." Alani nodded. "Tamra told me you know something about the night my mother died." Moses's breath stuttered. He looked at the governor, then back at Alani. "You sure you want him hearing this?" he asked gently. Ward stiffened. "I have every right." But Alani lifted a hand, stopping him. "My mother trusted you," she said to Moses. "So I will too." Moses studied her for a long beat, then motioned toward two old stools. "Sit." Alani and Ward sat. Moses remained standing, pacing slowly as if gathering courage from the ground beneath his feet. He began quietly. Your mother was one of the bravest women I ever met. When she worked in Ward's office, she found something she wasn't supposed to. Something that involved money, contracts, and men who didn't like the idea of a black woman asking questions. Ward's head snapped up. What are you talking about? Moses continued, eyes fixed on the floor. She found proof that a group of officials stole millions from a community fund. Money meant for schools, clinics, low-income neighborhoods. She told Hawkins' precinct. She trusted them. Alani's stomach tightened. But instead of protecting her, they warned the men she was exposing, told them exactly what she found. Ward's breath shook, horror dawning in his eyes. The night she died, Moses said, she wasn't alone. She was baying, followed, pressured, threatened, and Hawkins, he wasn't just there. Moses clenched his jaw. He was the one who pulled her out of the car. She was still alive when it crashed, but he never called for help. Alani felt the world tilt. Ward looked like he'd been struck. What are you saying? Ward whispered. Moses's voice hardened. I'm saying your officer let your wife die because she was about to expose his friends. Ward's face drained of color. His eyes glistened with a pain he'd never expressed in public or private. Alani's breath came shallow. The envelope trembled in her hands. She could barely form words. Hawkins, she whispered, he knew everything. Moses nodded slowly, and he kept quiet for 11 years. The room felt like it was sinking, slowly, painfully, into an ocean of truth. But before Ward could respond, the sound of tires grinding on gravel cut through the room. Moses froze. Ward stiffened. Alani's pulse jumped. Moses whispered, someone followed you. Ward turned to the door, stay behind me. But it was too late. The metal door burst inward. Officer Hawkins stormed inside, his face wild, eyes desperate, breath ragged. His gun glinted under the dim light. The borrowed jacket hung crooked on his shoulders. Where is it? He shouted. Give me the envelope. Alani flinched, but Ward immediately stepped in front of her. Hawkins, Ward's voice boomed, put the weapon down. But Hawkins wasn't listening. He looked deranged, cornered, like a man drowning in consequences he created. You don't understand, Hawkins snarled. You don't know what's in that envelope. You don't know what she found. Ward spread his arms, shielding Alani. I know enough. No, Hawkins spat. You know nothing. Those men built your career, your campaign. They supported you long before you were governor. This, he jabbed the gun toward the envelope. This destroys everything, all of us. What you did destroyed everything, Alani whispered from behind her father. Hawkins's head snapped toward her. You should have stayed quiet, he said. You should have let the past stay buried. Moses took a step forward. Son, put the gun down before you do something you can't undo. Hawkins's hand shook, but his eyes hardened. No, not this time. I'm fixing it. He raised the gun toward Alani. Ward lunged to block the shot, arms spread wide. Take me, not her. Hawkins's voice cracked. Move. Ward didn't move. Alani gripped her father's coat from behind, shaking. In that moment, something shifted in Hawkins's eyes. Guilt, fear, rage, all tangled together. He screamed and stepped closer. But Moses moved faster. In one sweeping motion, he grabbed a heavy wrench from the workbench and swung it upward, knocking Hawkins's wrist. The gun flew across the room, clattering onto the concrete floor. Hawkins yelled in pain, stumbling backward. Ward rushed forward and tackled him, slamming the disgraced officer against the tool cabinet. Hawkins fought wildly, but Ward held him down with a fury fueled by 11 years of grief. How long, Ward shouted, how long did you lie to me? Hawkins spat in his direction. Long enough. Ward's fist trembled in the air, but he didn't strike. Instead, he spoke through clenched teeth. You will pay for what you did. Hawkins snarled. You can't touch me. You don't know half the people in this. I know one thing, Ward said. Your time is up. Behind them, Alani approached slowly. Her legs shook, her breath quivered. But she walked step by step until she stood face to face with the man who let her mother die. Hawkins looked up at her. For a flicker of a moment, something like shame crossed his features. Alani opened the envelope. She held the photograph of him at the crash site. She held the original report. She held the truth. You didn't just take her from me, she whispered. You took my childhood, you took my father's life, you took 11 years we can't get back. Hawkins swallowed, no words, no excuses. Alani lifted her chin. And tonight, you give it all back. Moses picked up the gun from the ground. He placed it on the table and folded his arms. Ward pulled out his phone. I'm calling the State Bureau, Ward said. Not the local police, not your friends, the ones you couldn't buy. Hawkins's face crumbled. No, he whispered. You don't understand. If I go down, they'll come after you, both of you. Ward's voice steadied. They can try. Alani stepped closer, her voice soft but sharp. My mother didn't die for nothing. Hawkins closed his eyes. For the first time all night, he knew he had lost. Ward dialed the number. Moses watched the door. Alani stood tall, her mother's strength in her spine, her father's fire in her voice. The truth was finally louder than fear. And as Hawkins sat trembling on the floor, humiliated, exposed, defeated, the governor said the line that sealed the night with power. You should have remembered one thing, Trent. You didn't just come after a black girl. You came after my daughter *. Hawkins lowered his head. The past had finally answered. And justice had finally risen. The ballroom is empty now, the echoes of the confrontation still hanging in the air. Glasses glint under the soft chandelier light, untouched, as if everyone knows the night has shifted something fundamental. Maya stands in the center, chest rising and falling with uneven breaths, the envelope still clutched tightly in her hands. She looks around slowly, eyes tracing faces that had sneered at her earlier, now frozen in silence. The weight of the moment presses down on her shoulders, but she doesn't fold. Not tonight, not after everything. Governor Thompson steps closer, his polished shoes silent on the marble floor. He doesn't speak immediately. He just studies her, searching for cracks for the girl who had been humiliated in front of dozens just hours ago. But all he sees is strength, quiet, fierce strength. He swallows hard, then says, Maya, I see you. His voice is low, almost trembling, as if the words themselves are heavier than any law or policy he has ever enforced. Maya looks up, not fully meeting his gaze. You should have seen me sooner, she says softly. Her words carry the weight of 11 years of being underestimated, dismissed, and overlooked. The governor's eyes narrow, and he finally kneels slightly so their eyes are level. I know, he whispers. And I failed you. I thought protecting you meant keeping you out of harm's way, but I didn't protect your dignity. Not once, not in the ways that mattered most. Her jaw tightens. I didn't need protection from everyone else. I needed someone to see me, really see me. She pauses, letting the words hang in the space between them. Not as the governor's daughter, not as someone fragile, but as me. The governor nods slowly, the first trace of tears forming in the corner of his eyes. You've grown stronger than I ever imagined, he says, and braver. I underestimated how much fire you carry inside you. He glances toward the envelope in her hands. And what you brought me, this truth, it's more than I could have faced alone. Maya exhales, finally loosening her grip on the envelope. I didn't come to you for help, she says quietly. I came because the world needed to know, not just you, everyone. She takes a step back, her chin lifting with the faintest trace of a proud, defiant smile. And I had to face it myself first. The governor straightens, a deep exhale escaping him. And you did, he says, voice steady now. You faced it all, and you're still standing. He looks around the ballroom where whispers have spread among the remaining guests. Some avert their eyes, shame coloring their expressions. Others stare, transfixed, as if realizing that the strength of one person can rewrite the narrative of an entire room. Maya walks slowly toward the exit. She pauses midway, glancing back over her shoulder. The faces she passes are no longer filled with mockery, but a mixture of awe and remorse. She speaks, her voice carrying clearly across the silent room. Respect isn't given because of who my father is. It's earned, and it starts with seeing me for me. The words hang in the air, settling like dust that refuses to be swept away. Nobody moves, nobody interrupts. And in that silence, a lesson embeds itself in every corner of the ballroom. Some will carry it for the rest of their lives, and some will never admit they even heard it. Maya exhales again, steadying herself, and continues walking out, her head held high, the envelope clutched to her chest no longer as a shield, but as a symbol of the truth she now carries. Outside, the night air is sharp and clean. The city stretches in quiet lights, indifferent yet welcoming. Governor Thompson follows her, keeping his hand close but respecting the space she needs. The car that waits for them is secure, silent, and yet it feels heavy with the aftermath of the night. Maya settles in the back seat, the envelope beside her, her hands finally letting go just enough to breathe. The governor sits beside her, staring ahead at the dark streets. "Tomorrow," he says quietly, almost to himself, "we start fixing more than the wrongs done to us. We start changing the system that allowed this." Maya leans her head against the window, her voice low but steady. "One step at a time." He glances at her, a faint smile breaking through the exhaustion. "One step at a time." They ride in silence for a few minutes. Maya's thoughts wander through the memories of the night, the humiliation she endured, the courage she found, and the truth she revealed. She realizes that for the first time, she is not just a survivor, she is a witness, a bearer of justice, and a force that no lie or cover-up can suppress. Ward breaks the quiet again, voice softer now. "I've spent years fighting for people I couldn't reach, solving problems I thought were bigger than life. Tonight, I see that the fight isn't about power or position, it's about truth. And it's about being present for the ones who need it most. You needed that, and I failed to give it." Maya swallows the lump in her throat. "You're here now," she says, "and that's what matters. We can't change the past, but we can face it, and we can stop it from repeating." The governor nods. His gaze shifts from the window to her face. "I promise you," he says firmly, "I will not let what happened tonight or in the past be erased or ignored. Justice will be served, and you will never face it alone." Maya exhales, finally allowing herself a faint smile. The fear that gripped her earlier, the fear of being humiliated, underestimated, and dismissed, begins to fade, replaced by a sense of purpose she has carried all along. She no longer feels small. She no longer feels powerless. She feels seen. The car glides into the night, leaving the ballroom behind, leaving the whispers and the judgments and the fear. But the truth has followed them, solid, unbreakable, carried by the girl who refused to be invisible. Maya turns to her father once more, eyes steady. "We start with this night," she says. "The rest we build together." Ward's hand brushes hers, a simple, unspoken acknowledgement of their bond. "Together," he agrees. Outside, the city waits. Inside, a father and daughter ride into a future shaped by courage, truth, and the unwavering refusal to let injustice go unchallenged. Maya holds the envelope against her heart one last time, not as a burden, but as a beacon of what's been fought for, what's been endured, and what will finally be recognized. The night is quiet, but within it a storm has passed, and in its wake something stronger rises: dignity, justice, and the unshakable truth of a young woman who demanded to be seen. What this night proves is simple yet powerful. Courage is not defined by your size, your status, or the opinions of those around you. Courage is defined by standing for the truth, even when the world seems determined to ignore it. Maya didn't need anyone to fight her battles. She needed to be seen, to be heard, to be acknowledged as a person whose life and dignity mattered. And in claiming that space, she reminded everyone in that room and everyone watching that justice begins with recognition. Too often, the world tells us to stay quiet, to accept humiliation, to bow to power and authority even when that authority is wrong. But the strongest moments of this night weren't the threats, the fear, or even the confrontation with Hawkins. They were the moments when Maya held onto her truth, walked with integrity, and refused to let shame define her. Her father, the governor, learned a lesson he had never expected to learn: that protecting someone isn't about control or power. True protection is about listening, seeing, and believing. It's about trusting the people you love to act with their own strength and supporting them, even when it scares you. And most importantly, it's about confronting your own failures honestly and allowing them to become the foundation for change. This story is not just about one black girl or one corrupted officer. It is about every person who has been dismissed, humiliated, or ignored because of who they are. It is a reminder that dignity is unshakable when it is claimed boldly. That truth, once uncovered, cannot be buried again. That standing up to injustice, even in the face of fear, can create ripples powerful enough to change systems, communities, and hearts. And so, when you face moments of cruelty, injustice, or disrespect, remember Maya's example. Remember that courage is not always loud. Sometimes it is quiet, steady, unyielding. Sometimes it is simply choosing to be seen, to speak, to act with integrity, and to refuse to let shame or fear define you. If this story touched you, share it with someone who needs to hear it, because courage grows when it is witnessed, justice grows when it is demanded, and hope grows when the truth finally speaks.